and then you're talking to God and be like, hey, can you just like, he's a good guy, can you just like like, come on. And then God's up there like, "Ugh." And then Jesus is like, come on, Dad. He's like, fine.
I'm here with my friend Mitch, and hey Mitch. So for this video, first we're gonna eat our Swedish pancakes, and since it's afternoon, we're gonna try some wine with this. So it's like our unleavened bread and wine together. So we're gonna eat, and then we'll have a conversation after that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
La santé.
Yeah. I was working at the winery, and then you started working with me, and then that's when I really got to meet you, and we became kind of better friends in conversation, and and I really enjoyed just your perspective and with how you grew up in the church and kind of how you walked away from the church in a way, and I'd like to share that story with others. So I guess we could start with you and growing up.
Okay. That's a long story.
Well, we don't do it all.
Buckle up. No.
No.
I mean, I guess I can just kind of focus on. I guess when I started coming out, like as a gay man, you know, I always knew that I was different, and what that was such a journey. There are some people who say they knew right from the start, and for me, it was kind of it was. I mean, it was. Now that I think about it, now that I understand what it is to be, you know, a gay man, like, and I understood where like the clues here and there, but I was a kid, like I didn't need to really like make those decisions so early on. So like as life progressed, and like I kind of told my parents, I was probably 14, 15, that I was having these feelings for you know, these feelings for men, and it was almost as if it was rough. Like it wasn't received well, even though it was just me just being honest with them. Like we always had a very open line of communication, my parents and I. So it kind of shut me down after that. Like, you know, well, I'm not going to tell them again, because if they're going to, you know, act this way, then I don't really want to have that conversation with them. So I kind of swallowed it and kept it hidden, and you know, didn't really talk about it with anyone. So it was very difficult growing up. I was very angry, because I had a part of me that I couldn't talk about, like, you know, Johnsburg, where I went to school. Like even the most the most accepting person, like, was even kind of like, okay, well, that's a little weird, a little out of my wheelhouse. But in time, I found a group of people that I could really confide in and talk with and be open with, and it wasn't in the church, I can tell you that. So, and you know, it's just kind of thinking back of in that time of confusion and anger, where the church that I knew, the church that I grew up with, that was supposed to be your refuge, and that was supposed to be, you know, where you go when you're confused and broken and tired and weary. And I would go in, and then I would just even feel more like crap about myself. And so constantly being told, like, oh, you're going to hell, you're dirty, you're gross, like you're sick, there's something, you know, there's a demon in you. Instead of just actually engaging in this conversation and helping me see from a healthy standpoint, but more from a healthy standpoint, other than fear, like something that they don't understand, like that they were raised to believe that it was terrible. So I fought it for a long time, and back and forth, and I'm praying the gay away, and I'm straight again, and everyone's like, no. so, and then finally, I think I was dating this girl when I was 23, 22, and I loved her very much, and but there was a block. There was something that I couldn't give 100% of myself, and it just was, I kept forcing it, and then the more that I forced it, that the angrier I became. And I'm like, intrinsically, I'm not a very angry person. Like, naturally, I'm a very happy-go-lucky, go with the flow, love to have a good time, nurturing person. But I became a monster. Like in this, a portion of me that anytime that I would, let it out, I would be like, forced to come back into my shell, closet, if you will. I don't know, it was a very rough journey. Then finally I'm like, listen, I love you, but, I can't do this anymore. And she's like, why? It's like, I'm gay. She's like, I know, but I love you. so, because we had this conversation before. Like, this is the person that I was going to marry. So it was we had a very, very open communication, and I would tell her when I was struggling, and I would tell her that I would need support and love, and then early on she started to realize that might have to be, that was a reality that she might have to deal with at some point, whether it be now or later on. And so I started like, listen, I love you very much, but I'm gay, and I can't in good conscience move forward with this relationship. And then I called my parents. Well, I didn't call them right away. I'm like, listen, I'm gay. I broke up with my girlfriend. No, they called me, and I was very upset, and they noticed that she and I weren't hanging out anymore, or anytime that it was oh, where's Katie? Or well, I don't know, she's probably at home. Why? I don't know, that's where she lives. So, and then it just got to the point where I was like, all right, listen, we broke up. What'd you do? Me? I didn't do anything. What'd she do? She did nothing. Well, then why'd you break up? And I was like, because I'm gay. I'm sick of fighting it. I'm tired. I'm broken. I'm sick of holding up this false idea of who I am. This Mitch that was created for me. And that I had a hand in creating myself. That's not me. I'm not a fake person, and I hated living this life. That's why it made me so angry. So and then part of it was the reason why I had to live this life is because the church, I couldn't be myself, so I had to this character that I had made at church, and then I would be myself outside of church. So that I grew to resent church, because even for that hour in time, I wasn't myself, and I hated it.
Why is this the biggest taboo and biggest sin, and why does our church, not necessarily our church, but just the news and everything just eats it up, and why is that the biggest thing? And I think it's just because you're actually open about the state that you're in.
Yeah.
And so then, from then, just making, wrestling with, is this sin or is this not sin? So, at that point, it's okay, it's sin, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me. It's not, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But then once I met you, I've had gay friends, but nothing I don't know, I loved our conversations. It just, really made me dive into, man, I really do need to take a stance on this. I can't just be on the fence and be agree with, understand where, the conservatives come from, and then also understand where, that it's not a sin side of the fence, but it's I gotta take my stance. So it's
right.
Really thinking about that, and going through, and so that's where my stance would be, I'm going to say it's not a sin. You know, like the way that homosexuality is, like you and Jimmy's relationship, I personally don't see that as sin. I think it's a beautiful marriage and a beautiful thing. And, you know, it's like, where does the Bible discuss homosexuality? And it's Genesis, where a lot of people references Sodom and Gomorrah. And, you know, you have Lot who invites these two angelic strangers in, and then the whole town wants to come in and rape them, and he's like, don't take them, take my daughter instead. The Old Testament does that a few times. And,
Yep.
why doesn't he say take me instead? I don't know.
Take my daughter.
Take my daughter instead. I guess it's like sacrificing your family's name and lineage. I don't know. That it's just an interesting thing that doesn't get discussed as much, I don't think. But somehow that becomes like sodomy, and that becomes like the start of this great sin and taboo. So it's like Genesis, which I don't really, and I don't know how that one really is homosexualized sin, because they're trying to just take out these strangers, and Jesus uses it later on to say like taking care of strangers that come into your house.
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing, and people come into your town. Then you'll go to Leviticus, which has all kinds of laws and rules. Somehow we pick and choose the ones we want.
Oh, of course. It's
right,
like,
yeah.
What was it that one of the pastors that I saw, because I used to go to a lot of like the conventions and stuff like that as a kid, but then as I got older, I was one of like the not the chaperones, but like the counselors or whatever that would kind of like keep the kids in line. So one time one guy said, he was like, we create our, as you know, Christians, sometimes we create this Build-A-Bear religion. And this, like, it's like, well, okay, well, I like this one. I like this one. Well, this one doesn't really line up, so I'm just gonna kick that aside. And then I like this, and then like here's some, you know, throw that on top, and kind of make your own, you know, Build-A-Bear, like Build-A-Bear religion. And so, and that happens so much because people, you know, they pound their fists about things, and they drive their heels in the ground. They're like, I have this stance against this. Well, didn't you divorce someone someone because you had an affair with some other woman from church?
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Right.
Well, it's a little bit of a gray area, but I'm staunchly against this. And it's like you can't, if you want to live in this world, if you want to live in this, well, not in this world, but if you want to live in that world that you're creating for yourself, you're going to have to answer to certain things. Like you have to answer to like exactly like saying like I'm against homosexuality.
Right.
Okay. Great. Awesome. Well, what about your divorce?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's explain it. Yeah.
What about the fact that you eat yourself into oblivion every night? Like, people don't, because those are weighed differently, and if
They are.
and you know, God doesn't weigh sins differently from what I've heard. Like
Right,
the
right.
God that I know,
Right.
it's all the same.
Right.
So
Exactly. And
But I don't know.
yeah, so it's like you pick and choose, and somehow there's that, but then a couple verses later it's like, don't have sex with a woman on her period. It's like, you know, let's refuse, you know, a cake to these gay guys, but then, you know, this married couple comes up, did you have sex on her period? You know, like, that's not a question that's asked.
Now that would be awkward.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Like, well, am I gonna say no?
Right, yeah.
It happens so infrequently.
I mean, it's like pick and choose. And I think if we're going to live by Leviticus, like, you got to do the Jubilee and live in the year of the Sabbath. Like, every 7 years we don't work, that would be awesome.
Hey, sign me up.
I think we need that one. Yeah. And then every 49 years it's like getting your debts paid. Like, that would be some cool stuff. I think if we're going to live by Leviticus, then we need to do that.
I've got some student loans that need to be paid, so.
Exactly. But like for me, Leviticus is, you know, for Moses and coming out of Egypt and setting up that law for those people in that time, and kind of going against what the rest of the people were doing. So it's still kind of picking apart this pagan ritualistic of just living for yourself, egotistical. We're gonna have sex with everybody. We're gonna drink and be merry and do all these things, and not really have any rule or law. And so Leviticus kind of is that for them, I think, going through the desert.
Kind of like square one.
Square one, right? Yeah,
for them.
That's kind of see it. But then, you know, and then Jesus comes along, and what does he say about homosexuality? He doesn't say anything about homosexuality. I mean, he, like, what is his statement to Leviticus? Even if homosexuality is a sin, he has the women that they pull out for adultery, and he who cast the first stone. And everyone's like, yeah, we're all sinners. And I think that's Jesus' big point is we're all sinners.
Right.
None of us are perfect, and I'm here to take that weight off of you. I want you to love everybody, and that's love me and love everybody, and that's it. That's in a way. I mean, it goes deeper than that, but I think in a nutshell. And then the other thing is he's pretty clear on do not judge others. And I don't know how that one gets thrown out there.
Well, I guess from my experience that I've seen is I feel like in the Protestant church that people feel because they have a personal relationship with Christ, so which is great, but I feel like they feel empowered to enforce that onto other people, enforce their beliefs and their convictions onto other people. So so they turn themselves into the hand of God exacting His word on the world, and that's I guess that's just been my experience. Where well, I don't believe you should do that. Okay, well, great.
Yeah. I
don't believe you should drink.
Right. Well, yeah.
Well, okay, well, great. You're a dick.
He said what? Because I mean, the one thing he said is judging others. So I feel like if you're telling someone what you're doing is wrong, is God created us, I feel equal, right? That's what the Bible says. We're created equal, and we're created in His image, and and He gave us these brains to be able to think and do things on our own. So anytime that I'm going to question that, so anytime I judge you, I'm questioning how God is working in you, and what is He doing with you, and your own personal relationship, and your heart, which are nothing that I can judge or see or know. I have no idea where your heart's at. I have no idea how your relationship with, I can't tell you any of those things.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like in the church, everyone's telling you.
Oh yeah, they have, like I said, back to the whole. I feel like I'm empowered to tell you, I don't think your heart is necessarily there. How about you shut your damn mouth?
Again? But then you go to Paul, and Paul is, Corinthians and Romans, where he still probably has his curls, still, he's pretty strict Jewish background. He just was killing a Christian. He still probably has some spots of blood on his sandals. Yeah. When he's, hearing about these churches that he's trying to build, and, they're still doing their paganistic rituals of, all these orgy, drinking, all kinds. Nothing is, it's all just self-indulgence, and not necessarily I'm taking care of others and loving and doing
there's no ministry. It's just self-serving.
It's just self-serving.
Yep.
And I think that's what Paul was really trying to untangle and trying to figure out. And that's why I think during the Roman period, homosexuality would have been something quite a bit different than what we'd see today, where it is, having, it's having sex with your old prostitute man, or it's your little boy slave, and so I think that would look different than an actual where we've come today and where things are today.
Two consenting monogamous adults.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's.
And you're and you love each other, you're taking care and you are nurturing that relationship, and you're not pressing on anybody else. You're not trying to spread. It's just
we're not recruiting. We have enough. we're not. We're not on the corners handing out pamphlets. Do you have time to talk about our Lord and Savior RuPaul? No, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
No admissions.
But then there's crazy things that still happen in this world, where Uganda's still trying to pass this kill the gays bill, and there's they're this 84% Christian nation, and somehow I feel like our Christian nation has been a part of influencing that, and that just terrifies me and freaks me out.
I know when I was in the military, when ISIS was starting to really get a footing, I watched, our professor showed us as two, militants through two alleged homosexual men. Might not even know they could have just been accused but there's no due process for them. They threw them off a building on live TV. Yeah. And our professors showed that to us. and didn't think it was a problem. So so that's, you know, and that was what, 2014?
Right.
So it wasn't like in the 50s or anything.
No,
it was
right.
like it was like
Recent.
less than 5 years ago.
Right. So it's what
No,
are we,
5 years ago.
what-
Yeah, I can't count.
I can't.
I'm gay.
No, it's all good. So it's like, I'm just trying to like, where does the church, like, where do we go from there? I mean, obviously, like, it doesn't matter whether I think it's sin or not, or you do, or whatever. It's, and I think that's what Jesus' point was too, is like, that doesn't matter. I mean, what matters is where's your heart and how are we, you know, loving each other, and I think even if you're someone who you know, still sees this, you know, this big taboo and this big sin, but like growing up, like a lot of my prayers, you know, like my mom, you know, like whatever you teach, like you're praying for these non-sinners. I mean, these non-Christians. Like, I pray that they find Jesus, you know, those kind of things.
Yeah.
You know, well, thanks. And then, but like
Okay.
Jesus, I feel like there's verses where he talks about, you know, like you knock on the door and God will answer, and or I think about like the centurion and his servant, which that could have been a gay relationship. You never know. Where he's like, you know, this house is not clean for you, and he's like, but you know, I send my men out and they do that, and so Jesus is like, wow, you have great faith, and he heals his servant. But it's like, I feel like in a way that's changing God's mind in a way. Like I say, like knock on the door and God will answer. Like if you keep knocking. So I think is instead of us praying that you change your ways, I would want to argue, let's pray to God that he accepts and loves everybody. You know, like, and is
Kind of like interceding for them.
and
you know?
exactly, yeah. So it's like, I pray that, you know, God, you see it through. You know, if I don't even know what that would be, but it's, you know, like homosexuals are not a thing. Like, do you see the real relationship that they have, and you know, like that kind of thing. And obviously, like if you feel like they're gonna damn to hell, like pray that changes. You know, like that's what I would hope. You know, and that God sees their way instead of let's just pray for the damned. You know, like
Right. You know, it's funny that as you're, you know, telling that, like painting that picture in my mind, I kind of see like, as we're praying, as you know, as someone's praying for, like, let's just say you were praying for me, and then like if you're all sitting at a table, and then you're talking to God and you're like, hey, can you just like, he's a good guy, can you just like, like come on, and then God's up there like, and then Jesus is like, come on, Dad. It's like, fine.
that's funny. I know.
That was just in my mind. Like I don't know. Like I feel like, you know, and you know that I feel like that's such. I don't know. Like it's a simple depiction, but I feel like it has a lot of weight. You know of the true. I guess from I've been so detached from like the Christian world for a long time. It's been a long time since I've been in a church. So. But I guess I still have those roots, and I still have like those beliefs and values, if you will. You know, don't be a jerk. You know,
Right.
Someone follows you, pick them up. Help out when you can. Love each other. Don't judge lest you be judged. But I feel like that. I feel like that would be such. It's a very simple but powerful explanation. And I think that would. I don't know. I think that would make way for a lot of conversation. To, you know. I think you're right. Instead of praying for the damned, praying the demons away, be like, this is a great guy. He's a great person. He's got a great heart. He has a huge love for people. I mean, there's this one itsy teensy little thing that's not,
Right.
typical.
Right.
But can he play with us?
Right,
Can he
yeah,
sit with
yeah,
us? Like,
right, exactly.
so
I'm
can he
saying
have a
yes,
seat at
right.
the table?
Yeah.
And I feel that's what Jesus is for. Like from what I've heard, from what I've understood, that's what Jesus is for. Is to like intercede for us and to be there for us.
Yeah.
Like he was the final sacrifice.
Right,
Like he
yes.
was enough. Like his grace is sufficient. Like he was enough.
He's enough.
He was
That's
enough
it.
to like.
It's done, right.
He was enough for me. He was enough for you. He's enough for whoever. Like
Right.
So I guess it's where do we go with that? Like where do we go from here? how do we get to that point where we can just have those healthy conversations without getting into the whole, well, you and you. So it's hard to get into that because people are very visceral about their beliefs.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and you know, or to love God first. So if I'm to love God, then
Yeah.
you know I have to follow these ways. But then He commands us to love others, and I think that's where that's showing the love to the others. And I think that's really what our focus should be is, and I think that's what it was in the beginning. Like the church is spreading that love and showing love to others, and I think that's Kill 'Em With Kindness. You know,
Yeah.
is how you're gonna get people to follow that movement and to make the world a better place.
Yeah, and it's funny because we have a couple friends, and when I was in the military, they were Mormon, and they were like, I guess for lack of a better term, like super Mormon, like, and not like very devout. We'll say devout Mormons, yeah. So like to the point where they would wear like their undergarments with the seals on it and like under their clothes, but they welcomed us into their homes. They would always ask about our life. They considered us good friends, and you know, we're still in contact with them today. And it was such an amazing relationship that we had, and it kind of opened our eyes a little bit again back to, because like when you were in the Air Force, and we had both been very closed off, and then these people just kind of opened our eyes back to the idea of religion again, or the idea of Jesus again. And you know, the Mormons, they have a little bit different beliefs,
Right.
but at the same time, they took value in our life, and that had that, you know, set really well with us. So I guess, you know, having value in someone's life kind of opens the door for communication, and I think people miss that.
Yeah, absolutely. And bring people in, you know, giving them food and I mean that food and wine, and take out and talk and and enjoy each other's presence and lives and respect each other. I wanted to get the homosexuality talk. I wanted to get it early because honestly, I want to get past it because I think that's one of the biggest things, and I just want to be like,
and it's super annoying.
And it's super annoying. Yeah, right. So I just want to get past that and move on.
Yeah.
So that you can just be you, and you don't have to be the gay guy. You know, like that's how I love our culture to be. Like.
Yeah.
And we move on from that. I don't know if that's where we're at or with the church, but I don't want that to be the focus of the church. I want us to be focused of loving others and how do we take care of this world and take care of the people who are suffering, and how can we work together to do that. And we have to be able to do that with everybody, and we can't be like, oh, you're judging, you're out because of this. You know, like,
because it's not honestly true. Like, it's not for us to decide.
No, it's not. It's God. And really, we don't know exactly what God thinks or is or does. So that's where I see Jesus, and that's where I'm going with that, and see where that goes. And that's where my last video was all questions, because yes, I wrestled with all these things my whole life, and really, we don't know God. We don't know, like,
we think we do.
We think we exactly. We all think we have our own personal, and we do, but I've never sat down and had God actually sit down and a person and speak to me. I would love that, but never.
Right. I feel like if we did, like, the world, like, he'd be like, okay, let me tell you where you're wrong.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
First of all.
Yeah. So.
The shake weight never should have happened. Like.
Right. Seriously, yeah. It probably sounded like, what? Yeah. Nothing about anything they're worried about.
The 80s, let's just forget that.
Let's just forget that, right. So that's where I just want to get this, because I think this is a big one that I just don't want it to be big.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that, but I hope our conversation helped in some way with people think about something.
Yeah, well, I look forward to. We'll accept your declaration of war in the morning.
That's right. That'll be fun. You know, post on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then now we got to figure out our triathlon. So me and Mitch is going to join because I did a triathlon last year. Mitch got excited. He made me trip.
Yeah.
He did.
I hope we weren't going to bring that up.
That's all right.
It was my dashing eyes.
Whoa. Yeah. Made me stumble. I know. So we'll hopefully that'll be a part of our future videos, and we'll get a little rocky music going with us working out. So
sounds good.
All right. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.